The indie hits just keep on coming as we're now at part 3 of my Nextfest 2023 showcase. We have even more indie games taken from the event, so sit back, relax, and here are some really solid indie games to check out. For our first game, we have Avoid Hope. This is the latest game from Elden Pixels, who did Alwa's Legacy and Awakening, and they are trading in the Metroidvania design for puzzle platforming. We play a couple who are trapped in a city where a virus is turning everyone into strange monsters. Or is it? As the line between reality and nightmare is blurred, and the couple have to try and figure out what is going on and stay one step ahead of whatever it is that's out to get them. The game itself is built on 2D exploration. Each area will have a number of items, as well as memories and other things to uncover, on top of secrets and bonuses to find. You'll have to get into this little bit of a mini game when an enemy is coming after you to properly time your weapon in order to stun them and get past. Each level has multiple paths, multiple things to find, and you'll mostly have to return to levels with items and upgrades from later levels if you want to get 100%. The game has a really nice soundtrack with that synth of, 80s horror that we've all come to know and love. With that said, the map design at the moment can be a little tricky to get around. Again, there are a lot of hidden areas and multiple paths to and fro, just the normal ones. But the story is certainly interesting, and I'm curious to see where things will go in the main game. We now have On Guard. This is an action game full of swashbuckling, swords play, and a lot of environmental fun. It is up to us to try and save the city from a corrupt governor, and we're going to do that Zorro style by swashbuckling around, beating up guards, and I don't think we're going to be cutting our name or our first letter of our name into any clues in this one. The gameplay here is pure action, as you'll go from area to area, arena to area, fighting different enemies. Now, the twist of this one is that there is a huge focus on environmental obstacles and using the environment to your advantage. When you're fighting enemies who they will attack in groups, you'll have to deal with enemies who will have attacks you can parry and enemies that you can only dodge. But using the environment will gain you an upper hand. You can kick boxes at enemies to stagger them, knock them off of ledges to stun, and even just knock them into water or other things for a quick kill. It's in a strange way, similar to that of when we played a Shadow Warrior 3. In that, well, yes, you can use your normal attacks to deal with enemies. The real skill is going to be using the environment for quick kills and just giving yourself an advantage. And the game boasts combat arenas where you can see how long you can survive against huge groups of enemies in an area full of items, miscellaneous things, and potential weapons that you can use. I really enjoyed this one. The combat felt solid to play, and the use of the environment gives it a far different feel compared to some of the other action games. It is bright, colorful, and there is definitely something here for fans looking for some action with a little bit of panache thrown in. I hope we see a score system or another way of rewarding players who really make use of the environment. I was commenting as we were playing, maybe something along the lines of a Bulletstorm-esque score system. Be that as it may, On Guard looks to be a fantastic action game, and I hope it does really well so we can see more of this kind of environmental combat design really play out. We now turn to Tagline, and this is if Jet Set Radio mixed with a pinch of FPS and Mirror's Edge. It is once again a dystopian future, and we're going to use the power of graffiti, literally, in order to save the day and get a bunch of street cred in the process. In this one, you'll explore kind of these somewhat open environments, looking for collectibles, bonuses, and vinyl records, which are your progression MacGuffin. The different color of graffiti that you pick up will give you a different power. Blue allows you to place jump pads, Purple lets you do an attack as well as set up platforms anywhere that the blast will hit, and other powers will be introduced. You'll do a mixture of exploration, racing, and combat in order to make progress throughout the world. The concept here is really well done. My one concern is when combat gets thrown in. The enemies are incredibly fast, and it feels kind of like off pace from the rest of this game. Like it's trying to be both a very movement-centric first-person platformer, but also wants to be a very challenging, combat-heavy shooter. And I'm not quite sure if it really works on both respects, at least in this demo. But the concept here is very intriguing, and if they can get kind of that balance right, this could be another very fantastic and very different first-person game to play. We now have Born of Bread. This is an RPG in the style that of like a Paper Mario game, especially with that very like animated aesthetic thrown in. When an ancient evil is unleashed upon the land, a baker haphazardly decides to use a magic recipe and creates Loaf, a boy made out of bread. And the two will go on a grand adventure to save the kingdom from demons, get into loads of danger, and probably a lot of pun and cooking related humor along the way. The combat itself is built around the action command style, where hitting the button properly timed will do more damage, and you'll gain special abilities and things to explore in the world itself. The demo has a ton of charm to it. Unfortunately, it also has a ton of bugs as well, as we ran into, unfortunately, a soft lock that basically stopped the entire play of it, and people were reporting other issues on the forums. Now, those issues can always be hammered out through the development, and again, this is just an early demo to the game. So I'm not too worried there, and I'm really enjoying what I saw with this one. There's a lot of charm to it, and I'm curious about where the progression and other RPG aspects will go when this game is, I guess, fully baked in the oven. Now up, Thronefall. This is a minimalistic strategy game where you're tasked to create and defend a kingdom in set areas. Your overall job here is that during the nighttime you will fight enemies using whatever defenses and units you have constructed or built, and then during the daytime you'll use the accumulated money in order to purchase new buildings, upgrade existing ones, and try to build out your economic infrastructure for the days ahead. As the days go on, you'll need to spend money to upgrade your kind of home base or castle, which in turn will unlock more spots on the map, as well as more things you can build. With each new day, the challenges will grow and you'll need a mix of melee and range units if you will have any attempt at survival. For additional challenges and unlocks, you'll gain experience as you win or lose maps, which will then be used to unlock new characters and perks that you'll have access to on future plays. You can also turn on mutations to make the game even harder at the kind of bonus of getting more experience. The game itself is definitely meant to be played very casually or very simply. You only even need a mouse for it. You can just play this entirely through keyboard. And the design is certainly a lot of fun. You'll need to really have to manage the enemy waves and what you build in what order if you want to have any chance at surviving, especially on the higher kind of mutation challenges. I like kind of watching your town grow and the evolution of more buildings, more defenses, and so on. Other than that, I really don't have any complaints about this kind of design. This is not going to be the game you're going to play for like a super deep, challenging like The Last Spell or They Are Billions level of difficulty, but this is a really solid pick up and play style game, and I'm definitely looking forward to playing more of it when it is released. We now turn to Toziuha Knight Order of the Alchemists. This is a Metroidvania, done in the style of Symphony of the Night, and is the second game from the developer, the first one just being a modern retro take on Castlevania. We play as an alchemist who is trying to stop the people who killed her family many years ago, and to do that we want to explore, fight, and gain lots and lots of upgrades. The game itself is definitely pure Metroidvania design, as you'll collect various powers and equipment as you explore the world. The game's kind of unique element here is that you can apply different alchemy-based items to your whip, which in turn, or I think it's like a flail, however you describe it, and these will change the property of it. And this will impact not only how you're going to solve certain puzzles or get around the environment, but also how you deal with certain enemies with their resistances or weaknesses to certain elements. If I had any complaint about the game, at least from what we were playing, it would be nice to have a little bit more of an understanding of how the different alchemy effects work with the environment and with other enemies. So just maybe like a color indicator if you're hitting an enemy with their strength or their weakness. The game looks like it's going to have a lot of things to explore and uncover, and the only other thing that I would like to have a suggestion for would be a way to turn off the kind of CRT scan lines, as personally I'm not a huge fan of them, but I know a few people like that kind of retro vibe. So if you are in the mood for another Metroidvania style game, then you should definitely check out Toziuha Knight Order of the Alchemists. We now have Luna Abyss. This is a first-person kind of Metroidvania game in a similar control style that of the Metroid Prime games, although with a far more disturbing and brutal-looking aesthetic to them. It is a very far time into the future, and we have been tasked by the Allfather in order to explore what appears to be ruined remains, where everyone has either gone dead or been corrupted by some strange force, and I'm sure there'll be more and more revelations as the game goes on. The combat itself is again pitched very much like the Metroid Prime design, as while you can free aim with your gun, it is definitely far better and far more easier to fight using the game's lock-on system to target enemies while you move and go around. You will get access to different upgrades, especially weapons that can be used to deal specific types of damage or get around enemy shields, and there's going to be some light exploration to find bonus upgrades, lore, and more. I like the look of this game, and there's certainly some charm to this aesthetic. With that said, the demo did feel a little bit limited. There really wasn't a lot we could see in terms of Metroidvania or kind of first-person exploration gameplay, and combat seems to be relegated to namely the battle arenas. But there is definitely something interesting here, and I definitely want to see more of this game and where it will go with the story and design in the future. We now have Abathor. This is a kind of modern retro action platformer. Kind of feels like a 2D side-scrolling take off of a Golden Axe style. When the island of Atlantis is in danger, it's up to 4 heroes to brave it and save it from evil. So the game's kind of main selling point is that it can be played with up to 4 players, each one controlling a different character. Each character has different kind of attacks and behavior for how they'll play. And the game also has a kind of randomized upgrade system after a battle that whoever gets the most score will get a free random upgrade, such as decreased cooldown on their attacks, higher jumps, and so on. The game itself has a really fantastic soundtrack as well. Some of the areas sound fantastic, and I like the overall design of the environment and enemies. With that said, the single player can feel a little constrained. You move very, very slowly in this game, and it's very easy to fall into a death pit and get killed, which I don't know how things will behave in multiplayer. From what we spent in our demo, this is a game that I would say if you're playing this solely for single player, it may not have enough meat on the bones for you, but if you can get at least a friend or a few more to do some hack and slashing together, then this could be a really solid action arcade style game to play. Now we have something very different with Crime O'Clock. This is a investigation hidden object mystery game, and that is certainly an interesting combination. We work for a bureau that is trying to protect the true timeline from interference from strange forces. And in order to do that, we need to explore various periods in time and uncover what events are being affected and try and recorrect things. So the game itself is kind of played out as, again, a hidden object style. As a bit of a twist, you'll go through the same map at different ticks of time that affect where people are, what hidden Easter eggs you can find, and so on. There is a hint system as well as other kind of like mini games to do. But this is again focused on the hidden object style, as you'll need to track people around the map and see what you can uncover about who is trying to ruin things for everyone. As a fan of hidden object games, I really like this one, and I enjoy the kind of different take on it, where it's more about a goal rather than just, here's a list of 10 weird things in the level, go find them. So if you are a fan of this style game and looking for a different take on it, then I definitely recommend Crime O'Clock. For the last game of our showcase today, this is Mega City Police, an action roguelike that is similar to that of Nuclear Throne. It is the future. Crime has gotten completely out of control, and it's going to be up to a variety of police officers in order to stamp it out, well, or should I say, shoot it out, with a variety of weapons. If you played any of Nuclear Throne, then the basics of this gameplay should be very familiar to you. You have different ammo types that you can see in the upper right, with each weapon using one of them. And you'll need to figure out what combination of weapons you want to use and cultivate over the course of a run. Each character you can play with also has one special weapon that builds up as you kill enemies, and after each level you can spend money to either buy better weapons or unlock perks for the remainder of the run. All in all, this is one of those games that it kind of does what it says on the tin or on the store page. My one issue is I felt like ammo was very constrained and the melee just did not feel right to do in this one. Once you run out of ammo for whatever is your favorite or best gun, you are in some serious trouble. And much like with the Nuclear Throne style, ammo drops and weapons are entirely randomized as you play. So this is going to be one that, again, you'll know very quickly if you are the right audience for it. The gunplay, as long as I had ammo, was alright, and I'm curious to see if they'll be able to kind of get everything balanced and fun when the game is released. So with that said, that is day number 3 in the books. Come back tomorrow as we'll do part 4. Be sure to do all that YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you'd like me to tickle your game once this Nextfest madness is over, please reach out. If you're interested in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books, and visit our Discord and Patreon. Come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom where we examine the art and science of games.